Welcome into the Gibson Fantasy Football Podcast. Joining here on this fine Tuesday evening. It is doesn't have quite the same vibe as the Friday or the Sunday. Friday is sort of party time, and Sunday feels like football. So a little different, but nonetheless, we have some important discussions today around wide receivers. I am excited to have you here with me and to talk a little bit about it. Josh joining you here from the GFF team. And if you're looking to find out more information or follow along, we're here on the YouTube channel, Gibson Fantasy Football. We got our website, gibsonfantasyfootball.com. We got the Instagram, Gibson Fantasy Football there. And then on Twitter at Gibson_FF. So that's where you can find us. And today is wide receiver day, and there's a lot. I've been trying to give some info about sort of rankings and projections for each player as we've gone through the quarterbacks and tight ends. That's just not possible here today. There's just way too many. I am going to be writing like a summary article that I'll put out just before the draft there, maybe a week or two before the draft in April. And it'll feature some more information and a breakdown of almost all the players that I talked about here in the Risers and Fallers series. So tune into that to get some more info around rankings and projections for wide receivers and probably running backs. There's probably a lot of them too. That said, let's do it. So, we always get the negative out of the way first, and there's a couple of big ones. So Davante Adams is the first huge faller. And, still kind of shocking to think about the Aaron Rodgers trade, the Davante Adams trade over to the Raiders there. So we'll see. I mean, I still feel like he's an elite option. I think that he's still the primary target ahead of Waller. And beyond that, there's really not much. Renfro's good. And I know he had a really good year last year, especially for PPR. But I'm not convinced that he'll be able to take away any sort of target share from Adams. So I think his volumes is pretty similar. It's just the touchdown total. He's been not only double-digit touchdowns, but like 15 plus the last couple of years with Rodgers. And that's asking a lot of Derek Carr. I think double digits still in the realm of possibility and probably even predict that. But the 15, 18 he's been getting, that's coming down. So he'll drop a bit, more of a back end wide receiver one, maybe mid wide receiver one in redraft, and then a little lower in dynasty, obviously with the age there. Next up is kind of the consensus number two there for a while up until Cooper Kupp stole the show, which is Tyreek Hill. So he's been the other huge staple at the wide receiver position the past few years. And he's off in the latest trade, which features him going to the Dolphins. So that has a lot of impact on a bunch of different players. But from the wide receiver perspective, bad news bears for him. Definitely lowers his ceiling with, going from Mahomes and being a clear two-target team with him and Kelsey, all the way over to Miami with Tua. And I quite like Tua. I actually think he's probably a bargain and a value at this point. People don't seem to believe in him. I think he's competent. I think he'll do well. I think I talked about this on the quarterback episode. So I don't think it's that bad of a drop, but you can't go from Mahomes to anyone basically aside from maybe Brady or Rodgers and expect the continued production like that. He also has to compete with Gesicki and Waddle, who joins the fallers category as the next name here, because Tyreek Hill came in and takes over as the alpha. Again, I think people are lower on Waddle than they need to be. I'm still in. I still think he's going to have a decent year this year. And, Tyreek's 28. He's a burner. Speed doesn't last forever. I mean, I know Deshaun Jackson made that last for quite a while, but he went out hard and injuries really caught up with him, which could happen with Tyreek as well. We've seen him injured a little more over the past couple seasons. So both fallers, I'd be more interested in Waddle than Hill, given the discount, even in redraft, but certainly in dynasty as well. The other name that comes to mind here, so we covered Renfro, talked about him taking a hit as well. And so it's a theme of duos, right? So we had the Adams Renfro duo, the Hill Waddle duo, and now we got the DK Lockett duo. So Russ leaves town, goes to my Broncos. Woo-hoo. Still excited about that. Can't believe he's on the team. Can't wait to see him in the first game. But yeah, you lose Russell Wilson and you get Drew Lock. I don't have to tell you that's a bad thing. Believe me, I've lived it. And maybe Geno Smith. Maybe they draft somebody. Maybe they grab Baker, Jimmy G. I'm not really sure, but nobody's going to be Russ. There's no replacement there. So the fall off is legit. Now, Lockett is the one who takes the huge hit here. He had a real chemistry with Russ, and he's a real deep ball threat. DK, we saw even when Geno Smith was in, actually sustained pretty good value. And he's such a big, strong, athletic guy that he's very quarterback friendly. You don't have to throw the ball far. You can throw contested catches. So you don't have to be as accurate or have the arm strength to connect like you do with Lockett. So I still like DK a lot, especially in Dynasty. But yeah, definitely takes a hit here. So those are the three duos that take the biggest hit here. And on the flip side, though, we do have some risers, and there's a lot of them, actually, quite a bit more from some of those names leaving, as well as other names kind of moving around. So the first duo is CeeDee Lamb and Gallup there, Michael Gallup. So Amari Cooper leaves town to go to the Browns, and that's good news for CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Cedric Wilson also goes to Miami Dolphins, which I would say his value went down as well. You could probably put him as a faller, but he wasn't like super utilized unless Gallup or Cooper or Lamb wasn't on the field. So yeah, Lamb clearly solidifies himself now as the one, Gallup the two, and then it gets interesting after that, right? You've got some different pieces being brought in there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for target share in that offense. Dalton Schultz certainly steps in. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb and Gallup, big time winners. Love CeeDee Lamb right now. And especially in Dynasty, he's moving back up there where he was kind of in with that Jefferson, Chase, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. He's kind of going back up to where those folks are there. The next duo is Hopkins and Moore. So Christian Kirk leaves town and goes and signs a big deal with the Jaguars. And AJ Green walks away as a free agent and is still a free agent and maybe for a while at this point. So that leaves Hopkins as the clear-cut one. Excuse me. And opens up a long-awaited opportunity for Rondale Moore. There's a lot of people believing in him, a lot of people excited about him. So you got to hope this is it. I mean, they're going to grab somebody in the draft. Let's not kid ourselves. And that talent that they grab could be more talented than Rondale Moore, to be frank. But we just have to hope that that's not the case and that Rondale Moore still carves him out a nice role there. So certainly needles pointing up as of right now, and we'll see what type of player they bring in the draft to complement those two, along with, Zach Ertz, a tight end there. We talked about how Cooper leaving was helpful for Gallup and Lamb, and it actually worked out well for him because he goes to the Browns, which initially didn't look so good with Baker, but then Deshaun Watson comes over. And so from a pure fantasy football perspective, certainly Watson a better player than Baker. So that's an upgrade for Cooper there. And I think even a better player than Dak. And even if you think they're equal, he doesn't have to contend with Lamb or Gallup. So becomes the clear one there. He's a riser. He's real tricky, though. It's hard to know how many games Watson's going to play. So then you're thinking, how many Jacoby Brissett games do you have? So you kind of got to roll the dice on him. But arrow's certainly pointing up in redraft in particular. The Denver team, my boys. So Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, to the moon, all going up and up and up and up. They are all very talented. You could sort of make your case for Judy versus Sutton. Judy obviously wins in Dynasty because of age, even though it's not that big of an age gap. But in redraft, I think you could kind of pick your poison there, and you're going to be okay with either of them. And then Tim Patrick slots in there as a nice option later to grab that people have sort of forgotten about. So Russ there obviously makes a big difference for them. And this will be by far the best quarterback they've ever played with. So excited for them, both personally and for fantasy. Juju, I throw him on here. I mean, he's a bit of a riser. I don't, it's hard for me to buy back in that much. And I think they're going to grab somebody significant in the draft. And there's already been rumors about them trying to trade for guys like DK Metcalf. But as of right now, he moves behind Kelsey, and I think he's better than MVS in the role that he has, because MVS is more of a speed guy, and gains Mahomes over, old decrepit Big Ben or even Mitch Trubisky. So you have to still have him as a riser, not a riser I'm excited about or really believe in, but a riser, goes to relevance for sure. Allen Robinson, freed from the Bears and goes to the Super Bowl champs. Gotta like that. It's hard to know what Robinson has left in the tank. I like A-Rob. I've always been a big fan. I like the way he plays. I would lean that he'll still be a wide receiver 3 and have some value there. I wouldn't go much higher than that. Just not quite sure how he's going to fit into that offense. But, Woods is gone. So he potentially slots in as the 2, you would assume, ahead of Van Jefferson. And we'll wait to see if OBJ comes back, but he's probably injured for a good part of the season, so still would be ahead of him. So gotta like A-Rob getting away from the Bears. Even though Justin Fields, I think, was the best quarterback he's ever played with, Matthew Stafford is certainly, in my opinion, a better quarterback. I think most people would agree with that. In Buffalo, you got the trio there of Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, and the newly signed Jamison Crowder. All of which now trail behind Stephon Diggs, as we saw Beasley and Sanders leave in free agency. So they all kind of slot in there. They're all kind of interesting. Crowder maybe less so. We kind of know what Crowder is. PPR guy, not going to do a whole lot exciting, but very safe. Somebody can throw in your flex spot and won't kill you. And certainly gained some value going from the Jets, where he was playing with Zach Wilson, over to playing with Josh Allen there. So quarterback upgrade, but I'd be more interested in Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie, which obviously the community is, because you can tell based on price and value there. But I'll take my shot at this point on Gabe Davis, because I don't think they're going to draft anything significant now that they got 4 wide receivers. So they might grab somebody in like the 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, but there's not be anybody that's going to threaten any of those guys, particularly Gabe Davis, in my opinion. So I'm in on Gabe Davis big time. Kirk, we talked about him leaving the Cardinals and goes to the Jags. Offense is a downgrade, but it doesn't have to complete with Hopkins or AJ Green as he was last year there. So, I think he's the best of the trio there with Zay Jones and Laviska Shenault, and I guess Marvin Jones, so you could call it a 4-pack. But not loving that, not excited. I don't think he can really deliver on that contract. I don't think anybody thinks he can, but he's again a wide receiver 3 that will have some value and he'll have a couple big games here and there. Just not going to be consistent. Never has been. And this would be one of the most underrated ones that I think is quite sneaky for fantasy, is Russell Gage getting signed by the Buccaneers. I love that signing. I think Gage is a decent receiver and proved that he had some value there last year in a decrepit Atlanta offense that was Kyle Pitts and then a collection of whoever happened to be kicking around on that given week, with Matt Ryan trying to compete behind that terrible offensive line. So now you get Hall of Famer Tom Brady, and then you got a better offensive line, and he slots in behind Evans and Godwin, but Godwin's not going to be there right away, it looks like anyway. So he'll be the number 2 for, a few games at least, and the number 3 after that. And we saw what Antonio Brown could do before he had his sort of off-field fiascos coming in. I'm not saying he's as talented as Antonio Brown, don't get me wrong, but there's certainly enough passing volume to go around in that offense that the third wide receiver can be very valuable for fantasy. So I'm in on Gage. I'm excited. I think he's a sneaky one. So keep an eye out for him later in drafts, and could be a cheap dynasty ad as somebody that you could take a shot at as well. A few omissions here we'll talk about. So players that basically remain neutral for me. So Cooper Kupp, Woods leaves, OBJ leaves temporarily, Allen Robinson comes back. Maybe a slight bump for Cooper Kupp, but he was the wide receiver one. So, I mean, there's nowhere to go from there, but, stay the same anyway or down. Mike Williams resigns with the Chargers. So, goes back where he was. I've never been a huge fan. I think he's streaky at best. I think it's the best place for him. But I'm not super excited about his value. And I think last year kind of showed he burned a lot of people after. Man, did he burn bright that first 5-6 weeks of the season. He was like the wide receiver 1 or 2 there for a while. So that was crazy. Terry McLaurin, I think Wentz is better than Heineke, but not miles better. So, I think it's neutral. Pittman, goes from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. I think this is an upgrade as an offense. I'm not sure it's that much of an upgrade for Pittman. But T.Y. Hilton did leave in free agency. So you could consider him a slight riser there. So I'm excited about Pittman. I think he's a good player. But I don't think his value took that much of a rise based on the transactions. And then Robert Woods leaves the Rams, where he was competing with, OBJ and Kupp in that offense and Van Jefferson, and seemed like he was going to get kind of phased out organically because of his age. Goes to the Titans. So, lesser offense, lesser quarterback, more opportunity. He'll be behind AJ Brown when he comes back. So kind of neutral again there. So those are all the guys that, you might be wondering, why are they not a riser or a faller? They're kind of a bit of both, right in the middle there. And then some folks still left out there: OBJ, Will Fuller, AJ Green, Julio, Jarvis Landry, T.Y. Hilton. So kind of the big names, and there's not even really, aside from OBJ resigning to the Rams, maybe if Fuller matches up with Watson and the Browns, Landry, Julio, they got a little bit left, could be interesting there. But yeah, not really any star-studded options. Certainly the Christian Kirk and Mike Williams are, and A-Rob and Juju, all those guys are gone. So we'll see. We didn't get any big news on the other positions as of this week, which, I guess slightly disappointing based on all the craziness we've had, but we'll see what this upcoming time brings. As always, if you got any questions, any comments, anything you want to add, please find us. So GibsonFantasyFootball.com, Gibson_FF on Twitter, Gibson Fantasy Football on Instagram. We are all over there. And then you can also like and subscribe below if you enjoyed what you're listening to us here. And we appreciate any comments or interactions. Come find us, come chat. Always happy to talk football. All right. So have a good week. I'll be back for the running backs episode to wrap this up. And until next time, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.